Wargaming have released a brand new vehicle in World of Tanks console, which is slightly good. And of course, today's video is looking at this tank, why it is so good, and of course, why Wargaming keep doing this with premium tanks, because it is becoming an issue whereby all of the kind of premium tanks that we're getting at the moment seem to be way better, especially when it comes to Cold War, than a lot of the tech tree variants that we're getting. And so yeah, let's have a look at what this tank is. This is the Warden, which is a Era 2 vehicle that has some pretty decent statistics. Its armor is actually pretty good. Its turret armor works quite well and can pull off quite a few bounces. The side armor has a ton of space, and of course it's a boat-shaped hull, which means it's a lot more difficult to find the side armor of this tank, and when you are side scraping with it, you can bounce a ton of rounds. The frontal armor and the lower plate easily pennable by quite a few vehicles, and the upper plate as well, but of course when you're going hull down with this thing with the 9 degrees of gun depression, makes it very difficult for your opponents to actually do a whole lot, which is surprising considering that they are charging 12,900 gold, I believe, to be able to purchase it. And if we have the small little honour of having a look at how much 12,900 gold will cost you, it's approximately, yeah, like £40 even. So yeah, $50, something in that region, obviously dependent on where you live, but yeah, basically £40 for a vehicle in a game that you will only receive one vehicle with. So obviously that is £40 for one vehicle, but is it worth the money? And straight away, if in terms of performance versus some of the other tanks that we have in the game, then yes. But if you were looking at a global thing of should you actually spend £40 on any vehicle in this game, probably not, to be honest with you. But considering that this tank is an Era 2 vehicle, it gets some really nice damage per minute, 4,600, making it quite nice to be able to deal a lot of damage. And considering that your damage is 510 per shell, it's really nice. It's that mid kind of point between playing a lot of these Era 2 vehicles where some of them have 400, some 460. You can see a lot here with lower alpha damage, and of course some with similar alpha damages. And then you get some that are just absolutely out of the world with how much damage they deal, coming up as high as like 700 or 600 and stuff like that. But for the most part, most tanks have about between 400 to 500, and this is slightly higher than that, which is nice. And so that's what makes this tank really good to play. And even comparing it to other vehicles, you know, you're looking pretty good in how much damage you can deal in the period of time that you get, combined with the armor that the tank has, which is okay. Yeah, it's just a really fun tank to play, and a really strong one. We are running it with advanced loader, we're running it with ventilation, and running it with gun stabilizer. Now, to be honest with you, could probably remove gun stabilizer. It's not really that necessary when it comes to playing this vehicle, so I wouldn't necessarily kind of think too much about using this, and maybe go with advanced optics or maybe even some of the speed boost, because this tank has a 65 kilometers an hour top speed with 21 power to weight ratio, making it very good at being able to get up to top speed, which is what you want when you look at a vehicle in World of Tanks, being able to use the speed that it has. And this tank does that quite well, but it could be even better and make it very good at being able to get up to speed, and therefore you can just be way more kind of mobile around the map and deal a lot more damage, which is what I would go with now if I was to play the tank again. Now, other than the fact that it gets all of this, does it get view range? Well, yes, it does. 601 meters is pretty good, and that's without using any boost to the view range, and this could get even better if you do decide to use the advanced optics and stuff like that. Now, that is mainly because we got a commander in this vehicle that has a boost to its view range. You can see here with the Born Leader perk, you're getting increased view range, and then of course, when you have situational awareness, you get a 6% boost as well. So this is how we're improving our view range with this tank, and of course that is just making this tank very good in a general way, such that you can be very flexible in the game, which is what I like in a tank. I always like these medium slash heavy tank playstyles, and of course the Warden being a medium that has a little bit of armor but nothing absolutely outrageous makes this tank quite good and fun to play. So let's jump into the gameplay and see what exactly that means when it comes to playing this vehicle. And so that first gameplay that we do have is on Nomonhan, and this map is a bit of a weird one to play Cold War because it's primarily very big, very open, and when you have true vision like they do in Cold War, you can basically see the entire map. And basically any tank that's trying to make any pushes, other than when they push in the town area, and it ends up being quite campy. There's a lot of not really anyone moving around, and it's not that different from the World War II version in where you don't get true vision, but this one feels even more campy where people are just basically sitting either side of the ridge and dealing damage. So yeah, I mean, it's a good way to play this map, at the least at the beginning, and then starting to move up and do some extra bits and bobs as the game goes on, but we're going to see whether or not we can have a good result, and this tank can certainly perform. It's just whether I can actually perform in this game and have the impact that we're hoping to have. You can see here the first tank that we come up against is the RDF LDT, I believe, or LT, which is the light tank. And essentially it's like an auto-loading light tank that is actually quite fun to play. I really enjoyed playing that. It was one of the more kind of fairly early premium tanks that came into Cold War, and it was very, very good. It isn't necessarily as bad as the Armadillo was when that was first released, and it certainly is no Weasel Toe, but it is, yeah, pretty good. But obviously not so good when you're just getting ploughed by going into the center of the map by basically the entire enemy team. I wouldn't recommend it, and that's probably why that guy got taken out. So yeah, don't go through the middle of the map on this one, at least not at the beginning. And even in the late game, yeah, it's probably not worth going through the middle of the map, and maybe I should have taken that memo as we go through this game. But so far, looking pretty dull. 1,200 damage, it's okay, but certainly in Era 2, and given how powerful some of these tanks are with the alpha that they get, yeah, it's not very good. Let's try and improve that. Now, I come over to this location. Obviously, we've got to be wary from behind because you can get hit. It's true vision, remember, and everyone can see you from behind. So let's push up towards the two tanks that are over here, or were spotted over here. Gotta be wary of the T62. Don't want to be throwing away any of our hit points to that guy who could hit us in the side. And instead, we're coming up here. We make the age-old mistake of trying to auto-aim when we could have fully aimed. Yep, don't do that. And so from here, we've got the advantage in numbers, and of course, when I'm in pretty powerful tank, we can start going in and helping the teammate out, which I'm hoping to do. Unfortunately, I fired literally as we hit the bump, so it goes flying into the air, but we certainly could have been fine with that. Now, I decided to free aim. I've had enough of auto-aiming, so we're not going to do that again. And then the AMX-30B2 decides to YOLO into us to deal some damage, but unfortunately for him, we weigh a lot more than the AMX-30B, and there you go, 500 damage dealt to him from the actual damage of the tank, and an extra like 300 from ramming. To take a little bit of damage in that engagement, but considering we're up to 3.7k and we've only lost about 500 hit points, yeah, I'll take it. It's not a bad trade whatsoever. It's about 6 to 1. So yeah, if you can continue that throughout the games, you'll have a very, very good one indeed. But considering that the T62A is, or T62 as it is deciding he's going to have a stroll through the park, might as well finish him off as well with the ram, making it an eye, well, not even an eye for an eye medal. I don't even know what that is, but yeah, I don't even know what the, is it a kamikaze? I don't even know. But obviously taking him out, and we're looking like we should win this game. We're up by one tank, and it looks like the enemy team are all bunched into one square, which is good for us, as we can kind of come in and try and get around them and then deal with them in that way. Now, if I actually had a brain here and didn't decide that I was going to be a complete bot, I would have probably not gone alone on my own. But we're going to go alone anyway. I just get bored of playing passively on maps like this, so we're going to start trying to do something, which is always good. And obviously you can play how you want. The most competitive way would be to kind of get a little bit of a teammate, trade their hit points as you go in, and then kind of do something from there. Now we spot ourselves a little AMX, or a Leopard 1 even, sorry, and then we managed to hit him in the side, which is good. Obviously he hits the turret of this vehicle, which is fairly strong, and managed to bounce off of him. But as soon as he gets the hull armor of this thing, he can pen me basically every time, and we've got to be careful of that. But The Leopard 1A3 obviously pushing down, and unfortunately for me, I get ammo racked. Now, I made a mistake here. I pushed in and we took 2 hits, which we literally didn't need to do because I could have just stayed behind the rock. And yeah, now we're on 640 hit points, which is not good. And then, of course, a light tank comes up from behind with missile launchers, as you know, typically Cold War vehicles love to do. And then we bounce one off of the Brennus, which is the 30B2. But in coming over here, we got a little bit of a problem. It's the BMP2. And as we go back, the Brennus is just waiting for us to expose ourselves. And yeah, not the best trades in the world at the end of the game, and in fact playing pretty stupidly, to be honest with you. But we roll anyway. We probably wouldn't have been able to win this game. There's a lot of high health tanks in this game still alive, and some pretty solid ones as well. And so we'd have had to play an absolutely sterling round, and unfortunately for me, I didn't. So we end up losing this game. But it's absolutely fine. We ended up dealing the most damage in the game either way. 5.5 minute battle, 7,600 combined with 7,000 actual damage. 3 enemies taken out with this tank as well. So it was a reasonable result. Could I have been played better? Could we have pushed the 10k mark? Probably, if I hadn't played so kind of blasé with my hit points at the end. But yeah, still pick up 388,000 with this vehicle. It doesn't get any more bonus to its silver than 50%. So there's that to take into consideration when you're thinking about it if you want silver, but it performs so well that you earn a lot more silver anyway. So let's jump into the next one. And the next one that we're jumping into is Hellfire Pass, or Hellfire Pass, whatever you want to call it. The original Scorpion Pass, or that's what it used to be called, until they renamed it when they made it into a bigger version of this map. And essentially what this map relies upon is you kind of spotting for your team, or someone spotting for the team, in which you can kind of farm hit points as they come closer and that sort of thing. So we kind of push up in this game. We want to make sure that we're up on the ridgeline, and if we can get up on the ridgeline, then what we can do is start dealing with a lot of these vehicles as they come forward, and we can farm their hit points as they move towards us. We have the advantage, unfortunately for the enemies anyway, that we have the high ground, and when you have the high ground, you don't want to push into an opponent that has the low ground, because you're giving up your advantage straight off the bat. So we're going to stay here for the minute. We're going to see what we can see where the enemy team are deploying across the map, and when they do that, we get an idea of where to play. So this is something I always like doing in my games. It's just staying a little bit more passive, but making sure that when you need to, you do push, because there are certain times where I see a lot of players, they kind of stay in one position, it works, maybe they get a couple hits of damage, and then they think that it's going to work for the entire game. Whereas a lot of positions, yes, they can work in the early game, but as soon as it goes into the late game, you're basically useless. So yeah, please try and actually think about other positions that you can go to, rather than just going to the same spot every single game and then staying there until you inevitably get taken out, or your team fail, and then you end up with nothing at the end of it. So yeah, we're going to take this spot either way, and that gives us at least 1 free damaging hit, and we also get some assistance, and we can just keep poking here. It's really simple gameplay with this tank. You just are very accurate, and also very, very good with the amount of damage you deal, so you don't have to poke as many times as some of the other mediums at this era, which is cool. And I think Wargaming kind of hit the nail on the head with this tank. It might be slightly better than it should be, given that, you know, I just genuinely think that premium shouldn't be as good as Tech Tree vehicles, and that they should be there as like a silver earner. But I can get why they do it. It's basically just a money issue, let's be real here. Wargaming just love that money check coming in when they release a broken tank, or an overpowered premium, etc. Yeah, it's just unfortunate that that's the way it has to go, and unfortunately for me, our gunner gets taken out as we go to fire, and then the shell goes flying into the ground, which is perfect. It's exactly what I wanted from that one. But yeah, we take a hit and then end up missing because we took a hit. Yeah, just shambles really. But at this point I see that there is someone that's overcommitted over on this flank, so hopefully we'll get 1 free shot into him. I'm aiming, and then oh god, what am I doing here? Another badly aimed shot, but hopefully we'll get one into the oh my god, what am I doing? 2 free shots that could have been right there, and we'd have been up another 1,000 damage. But yeah, this is why sometimes you have to you know, not criticize other people, and sometimes yourself, which is where being highly critical and stuff like that is always good, and we can learn from being critical of yourself as well as others sometimes, but usually being vocal about it or sending messages at the end of the game doesn't usually get you anywhere when it comes to getting better, and in fact probably only end up wasting your time and wasting your breath with a lot of people. But either way, in this game, 961 damage, but can we pull it back? Because that's the ultimate question. It's nearly 4 minutes into this game and we've basically done nothing. And this is the problem with sitting at the back. Now I can't push down because it's quite campy map, and if you push down, much like the previous map, you get pumped by basically everyone that's camping doing the exact same thing that you're doing. So there's a bit of a risk/reward factor where if you can go down, you can really do a lot of damage. But if you don't and you sit back too much, you end up doing nothing and then you don't get rewarded anyway. So yeah, there's a fine line between having a good play, pushing in, that sort of thing, and making a bad play where you just end up back in the garage and it was no fun at all. But so far, we spotted a few people, got an extra hit in so far. And it's really in the late game where we're hoping to deal a lot of damage. We have the damage per minute in this tank to be able to do that. So I'm not worried about how much damage we can get, but more so about how we can win this game. I don't want to do anything stupid. So we've noted that there isn't too many people that appear to be able to hit me. There's a few people over to the left of where we're looking now that could potentially hit me. So when it comes to you know, poking out maybe later on in the day, or in this game, we'll be able to at least you know, avoid a couple of hits, or maybe just angle our armor to avoid taking any. So we poke down here. We want to get rid of this M60, help our teammate out there, which is fine. We take a hit, but it's such a small caliber one from like a BMP or something like that that we're not worried about it. And so we go down, try and help out the teammate again, which is fine. I'm absolutely happy to take a hit or two here. Yeah, we just have to do something, otherwise we're not going to do anything. And then our friend in the T62 on the enemy team decides he's going to pump on down the ridge, and it's another free shot. And we don't even get spotted that time, which is surprising. Cold War seems to have the most broken view range mechanics, whereby, you know, you fire and you get spotted anywhere that you are. And even when you're using bushes, behind bushes, you're so far behind the bush, you still get spotted. So yeah, I mean, that's basically World of Tanks console at this point. Spotting does not work when it comes to, or at least avoiding being spotted when you fire. Now then, after bouncing off of the M60, we then get a full penning shot there, which is great, and then find ourselves another little Magash who's out in the open, and obviously doesn't realise that we can see him still. And yeah, we get 2 shots off into him, bringing the total up to 4.7k. And primarily, my main reason for playing this tank is to get some silver. And yeah, you'll know if you've been following the channel any length of time that my silver problem is always the biggest problem that we have, because yeah, I go through silver absolutely crazily, and it's not because I fire premium, but because I have to buy every single tank in the game, and we've recently collected basically every single tech tree vehicle, and so yeah, we went from about 70 million silver all the way down to about 0, spending all of the money that I had on purchasing every single tank in the tech trees, which, as you can imagine, is quite expensive when some of them are 6 million each, and you buy like 5 of them. Yeah, it's not fun, but once you've done it once, you don't have to do it again, so I'm glad we did actually end up doing it anyway. So far, 5.6k, you can see how easy this tank is to play. It doesn't take a genius to work it out. You don't have many mechanics to it. There's no missiles. There's nothing you really have to worry about with this. It's just a case of avoiding any damage that you can and making sure that you're in a position to deal a couple shots of damage every game. And it appears like we're not going to get any more damage in this game, and maybe we could have been a little bit more aggressive, but I wanted to see how the tank handles. This was actually the first game we played, so it wasn't a bad one, and of course trying to earn as much silver as we can. Let's see how much we actually did earn, as yeah, premium tank equals premium silver, and we'll see what we got. Obviously didn't come top in this game, we didn't even come on the top 3. We did pick up 7.3k combined, which isn't bad, and I wonder where we actually came. I think we came actually 4th in the game, but 410,000 silver, which is brilliant, and some XP and some Commander XP, which is great as well. And of course the daily double means that we get that extra vehicle XP as well. So hopefully that's given you an idea as to the Warden. It's a really fun tank. I enjoyed playing it. There was definitely no issues with it. It's just a very solid medium tank that I think is great. And the armor somewhat works on the turret, but the rest of it not so much. Should you buy it for £40 or like $50 or $60 Canadian or whatever, wherever you are? Probably not. I don't think it's worth it, but it's down to you, your own economic situation, and if you can spend £40 on a tank, well done. But yeah, for me, I probably wouldn't spend £40 on this one, and probably any tank in this game. But yeah, if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section down below. Like the video if you did, and check out some of these if you're interested in other World of Tanks console related content, and the most recent update news where we look at all of the information coming out soon. That should be in the playlist with the World of Tanks update news. So other than that, I'll see you in the next one. Have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you there. Goodbye.